name is Tiara Napati. I am professionally an associate professor of global and international studies at the University of California, Irvine. My areas of expertise and training are in communication studies and Native American and Indigenous studies. And I would say my areas of expertise pertaining to that are interdisciplinary work around issues affecting Pacific Islander communities in Oceania, primarily looking at the area of Guahan, which is located in the Mariana Islands archipelago. And in that context, I use my areas of expertise to examine issues ranging from Indigenous cultural issues for Chamorros and other Pacific Islanders living in that area and the impacts of militarization and colonization in the Mariana Islands, as well as in Oceania and among diasporic communities throughout the globe. I'm an Indigenous Chamorro person myself, and so my ancestral connections to the Mariana Islands definitely had a role and an impact on me because our Pacific Islander and Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander populations are really woefully underrepresented, especially in U.S. academic institutions. And we are unfortunately overrepresented in U.S. military institutions. And so those two things actually influence my thinking and my own experience as being a Pacific Islander living in diaspora away from the home islands, and also as being someone who grew up in a family with connections to all branches of the U.S. military. Those were some of the, I would say, influential pieces that made me ask questions and wonder about where we get information, if at all, about Oceania, who's telling our stories, what caused and continues to impact militarization of our islands and other places around the world. And those things are kind of personal as well as political, and contributed to my experiences, particularly as one of the first people in my family to attend higher education and pursue terminal degrees. I often am humbled and reminded that I am only here, I suppose, in that professional career element because of mentorship and because of support that I've had along the way. A huge, I'd say, ocean of peoples that have helped me sort of think about and also pursue some of these opportunities that have led to higher education. So, I grew up in a place that didn't have Pacific Islander studies, really didn't have a large population of Pacific Islanders. And so, being able to ask questions and being instilled by my family members and community members and teachers along the way. And some of my early teachers came from those family connections. And so I would say that was a big part of influencing my career path that led to me pursuing activities in education that provided support and funding. The real material costs of being able to pay for education were things that I was able to learn about in some ways through trial and error, and in other ways by just pursuing opportunities that provided support that I wouldn't have otherwise received, because it's an expensive journey. I'll say that, to be able to have the privilege to work within a lot of these institutions. And so, I think that's part of the things that brought me to this career path. I think about teaching in a lot of ways by trying to honor and respect those peoples that have taught me. And so I teach classes in my Department of Global and International Studies. I teach classes on indigeneity. Global indigeneity is one of the classes I've taught. And I also teach classes, on different kind of theoretical perspectives. Native American and Indigenous studies, at least as areas of study that are tending to focus, at least in my experience in U.S. academic institutions, those areas of study are actually still quite small, and they're mighty, but they are not maybe as mainstream as some other areas of study. And so I think now in pursuing the career path that I have, it's really important to also continue paying that forward, to remind people and to encourage people, students or otherwise, to connect with communities, but also to think about Indigenous studies as a field for all areas of inquiry and something that can really do good work and do work in a good way in community if done correctly with Indigenous peoples and with Indigenous perspectives. Global forces of militarism that include all kinds of things, not least of which is nuclearism and colonialism, that global force absolutely has to be held accountable. It also has to be discussed alongside and critiqued and acted against when it comes to the issues of the impact on the environment and our global environmental experience. And so, I really think that is one issue that sounds massive because it is, but it has been left so far without strong enough global reaction and critique. And so as people continue what might seem like a very hot button issue now to talk about things like climate change and the frontline communities of Oceania that are experiencing the brunt of these kinds of impacts on the environment, it's also important to remember the largest polluting entity on the planet, which is the US military in particular, and to hold these forces accountable to the collective damage, destruction, desecration that they are doing on the daily with their routine activities. And so, the impacts of global militarism on the planet, our planetary health, and I think that includes all peoples, but not least of which are the frontline communities that are overwhelmingly Indigenous communities of our planet that have been fighting and thriving and sustaining in spite of these violent activities.